Today, we're diving into something pretty wild. It's a framework that looks at scripture, but not as literature. No, it sees it as a kind of machine code. And the claim is that this system can unlock a whole new layer of meaning. So, to really get what this is all about, let's start with a question. And it's a big one. One that might shake up one of the most common images in, well, all of religious thought. I want you to just forget everything you think you know about hell and just consider this. Right. So that is the actual output from the system we're looking at today. I mean, it's a conclusion that seems to come out of left field, right? It takes this ancient, familiar concept and turns it into something that sounds like it's straight out of a systems engineering textbook. The big question is, how on earth do you get there? Well, the answer isn't how you read the text itself. It's a completely different approach. So before we can really grasp the output, we've got to understand the operating system behind it. And it all starts by basically throwing out the old rules of how we analyze text. And here's the core idea right here. On one side, you've got traditional grammar, the way we've always done it, relying on history, context, what dictionaries tell us. But on the other side, you've got System 19, and it just bypasses all of that. It doesn't care about where a word came from. It's not interested in etymology. It's all about algorithms. It's replacing historical meaning with pure structural logic. The big rule that makes this work is what's called the plain text principle. So think about it like this. Imagine the scripture isn't a book of stories at all. Instead, it's just a raw stream of data, pure symbols. This principle says you have to ignore all the meaning we've attached to it over centuries, all the scholarly interpretations, everything. You just focus on the raw structure of the text itself. That's it. Okay, so you can see the process right here. It's a pipeline. You start with that raw stream of symbols. Those get mapped into a sequence of what it calls slots. Then those slots combine to create a mechanism chain. And that chain, that's what describes the system's behavior. It's a total transformation, really. You're taking ancient letters and turning them into modern functions. So you're probably asking, what are these slots? What's the foundation that makes this whole thing tick? It all comes down to a fixed, rigid architecture, a map, and the source material has a name for it, the 19-slot machine. So here's how it works. In this system, every single letter of the Arabic alphabet gets assigned to one and only one of these 19 slots. And that mapping is set in stone. It never changes. This is absolutely crucial because it creates what programmers call determinism. It means the same input will always, without fail, give you the same output, no exceptions. This prevents any kind of overlap or data collision. Basically, it makes the text as predictable and reproducible as computer code. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. If you've thrown out the dictionary, where in the world does meaning come from? And the answer in this framework is you don't look up meaning, you compute it. And that quote on the screen says it all. This is the big philosophical leap. Meaning isn't some static thing you find in a book. In System 19, meaning is the function of the word. It's the action it performs. It's literally what the structure does when you run it through the system. So how does it do something? Well, it's built from these core parts. You have that fixed 19-slot map we just talked about. Then you have specific functional roles for each letter. And on top of that, you have operators and rules that decide how they all interact. It really is like having a set of blueprints and a toolbox for building a tiny little conceptual machine out of every single word. All right, so now we've got the basic toolkit, right? We have the slot architecture and this idea of functional meaning. So let's go all the way back to that mystery we started with and see exactly how this system decodes the word Jahannam. Okay, let's break this down letter by letter. According to the system, each one has a functional role. So Jim, that first letter, acts as a loop or an energy cycle. Ha is an interface, like a gate. Nun is the seed, a regenerating core. And finally, Mim is the container, the system itself. So you see, the word stops being just a name. It becomes a schematic, a blueprint. And when you put those functions together, in order, what do you get? You get an energy loop with an interface containing a regenerating seed, all of it inside a closed system. And just like that, that really strange quote from the beginning starts to make perfect logical sense, at least inside the rules of this framework. But does it hold up? Well, to test for consistency, the system looks at another key word from the same context, Mersad. And the output it gets is a monitoring trap state. This lines up perfectly, right? It directly supports the idea of Jahannam being a monitored, closed-loop system. It shows that the internal logic seems to be consistent across different words.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've seen one specific example, but what about the big picture? What's the sheer scale of this thing, and what's its ultimate goal?
The potential key space for this system is 19 to the power of 19. I mean, that is a number so big it's hard to even wrap your head around. We're talking over 1 septillion unique combinations. What a number like that tells you is that the system is incredibly vast, big enough to map an entire universe of concepts without ever having them collide. It's almost like a modern, perfectly designed database. And that really brings us to the final point here. The whole goal of System 19 is to completely reframe Scripture, to move it away from the world of history and stories, what the system calls linguistic folklore, and pull it into the world of functional design. It's about treating the text as an architecture for energy, or maybe even consciousness itself.
So, at the end of the day, what are we really looking at here? Is this System 19 a genuine key that unlocks a language that was hidden in the text this whole time? A kind of divine machine code? Or is it a brand new, modern invention? A brilliant but ultimately human-made lens for seeing ancient texts in a totally new light? That, I think, is the big question this whole framework leaves us with.